The great crystal hall buzzed with quiet conversation as beings from across the galaxy took their seats. Some floated in energy bubbles, others stood on multiple legs, and a few existed as pure light that shifted between colors. This was the Galactic Council, the most important government in known space. Ambassador Sarah Chen walked slowly toward the center platform. Her black hair was pulled back neatly, and she wore Earth's best diplomatic uniform. Behind her, 20 other humans followed in a straight line. They all looked nervous but excited. Chancellor Vextar rose from his throne-like chair. He was 12 feet tall with blue skin that sparkled like stars. 4 arms moved as he spoke, and his voice echoed through the hall without any need for speakers. "Today we gather for a special moment," Vextar announced. "For 50 years, humanity has been watched and tested. They have shown they can be peaceful. They have proven they can follow our basic rules. The time has come to welcome them as full citizens of our galactic community." Sarah felt her heart beat faster. 50 years ago, first contact had changed everything for humanity. The aliens had been kind, but careful. They said humans needed to prove they would not cause trouble. Now, finally, that test was over. The Zephyrians nodded their approval. These tall, thin beings could read minds and had been watching human thoughts for decades. Their leader, Zephala, spoke without moving her lips. Her words appeared directly in everyone's minds. "Humans think clearly and honestly," Zephala shared. "Their minds show no hidden plans for war or conquest. They seek only knowledge and friendship." The Nexari delegation made clicking sounds that meant agreement. These robot-like beings loved logic and order above all else. Their representative, Logic Prime Nexus, spoke in a flat, electronic voice. "Human mathematics are correct. Human science follows proper methods. Human society shows acceptable efficiency ratings. We calculate a 94.7% probability of successful integration." Even the Veil gave their blessing. These ancient energy beings rarely spoke at all. But today, their spokesperson materialized as a shifting cloud of silver light. "We have watched this species grow," the Veil whispered like wind through leaves. "They show promise. They may learn wisdom in time." Chancellor Vextar smiled, showing teeth like white crystals. "Then, it is decided. By the ancient laws of our council, by the votes of all member species, humanity is hereby granted full citizenship in the galactic community." The hall erupted in polite applause. Different species clapped, clicked, hummed, or flashed lights to show their approval. Sarah felt tears in her eyes as she stepped forward to accept a small crystal device. "This citizenship beacon will give you access to all galactic networks," Vextar explained. "Your people may now trade freely, travel without restrictions, and enjoy all the rights and protections our laws provide." Sarah took the crystal with shaking hands. "Thank you," she said, her voice carrying to every corner of the vast hall. "Humanity is honored by your trust. We promise to be worthy citizens and contribute to the peace and prosperity of our galactic family." More applause followed. The ceremony was broadcast across thousands of worlds. On Earth, people gathered in cities and towns to watch their species officially join the galaxy. Children in schools learned they were no longer alone in the universe. As the formal ceremony ended, different alien groups approached the human delegation. They offered congratulations and invitations to visit their worlds. Trade representatives discussed opportunities for business. Scientists talked about sharing knowledge. "Your species will need time to adjust," said Trade Coordinator Zal Hun, a purple-skinned being with 6 arms. "The galactic economy is complex. We have been trading between stars for over 800,000 years." "We understand," Sarah replied. "Humans are good at learning quickly. We'll study your systems carefully." Zal Hun made a sound like laughter. "Of course, but please, do not worry about the small details. Our trade laws are simple. Most species barely think about them. Everything runs smoothly on tradition and trust. Dr. Marcus Webb, one of the humans in Sarah's group, raised his hand. Could we get copies of these trade laws? And maybe the tax codes? We like to read the fine print. Fine print? Zalhun looked confused. Why would anyone read all the technical details? The basic rules are what matter. It's just how we do things, Webb explained with a smile. Humans feel more comfortable when we understand everything completely. As the day ended, the galactic computer systems began their updates. Across thousands of star systems, databases changed human status from probationary species to full citizen. New access codes were created. Old restrictions were removed. The council members went to their homes feeling good about the day. They had helped another young species join galactic society. The humans seemed grateful and humble. They would probably stay in their small corner of space, trading quietly and causing no trouble. Chancellor Vextar looked out at the stars from his office window. Another successful integration, he said to himself. These humans will fit in perfectly. Meanwhile, on Earth and human colonies, something was already starting. In law offices and government buildings, humans were accessing galactic databases for the first time. They stared at screens showing laws that were older than human civilization, and they began to read. Every word, every clause, every exception, and sub-rule, and footnote. The galaxy had no idea what was coming. Dr. Marcus Webb sat in his small office on Earth, staring at his computer screen. The galactic legal database had just opened to him, and what he saw made his eyes grow wide. As a retired tax lawyer who had spent 40 years finding loopholes in human law, he thought he had seen everything. He was wrong. 847,000 years of laws, he whispered to himself. And they never cleaned up the old ones. The first thing Marcus noticed was how the aliens wrote their laws. They used grand, sweeping language about honor and tradition. They made rules based on what seemed right, not what was legally exact. It was like reading poetry instead of proper legal text. Marcus called his old law firm. Within an hour, 12 of his former partners were crowded around his desk, all staring at the screen. Look at this, said Janet Rodriguez, pointing at a section about trade disputes. They say disagreements should be settled with wisdom and mutual respect. That's not a law. That's a suggestion. And here, added Tom Chen, scrolling through citizenship rules. They define adequate probationary period as sufficient time for proper evaluation. They never said what that means exactly. Marcus was already 3 pages into notes. His old instincts were kicking in. After decades of reading human tax codes, galactic law looked like it was written by children. There are no time limits, he said, his voice getting excited. No statute of limitations. No clear definitions. Half of these laws contradict each other, and nobody ever fixed it, because all the species just go along with tradition. Across Earth, similar scenes were playing out. In every major city, lawyers, accountants, and government workers were discovering the same thing. The galactic legal system was a mess. At the Earth government's legal department, Director Susan Park was reading citizenship law when she found something that made her heart race. All citizens are entitled to standard benefits from the date of first contact recognition, she read aloud to her staff. Standard benefits include infrastructure support, educational resources, and protection services. Her assistant, David Kim, looked confused. So? We got those things during our probationary period. No, Susan said slowly. We got limited contact and supervision. Look at what standard benefits actually means. She scrolled to another section. Full infrastructure support means the Council pays for building starports, communication networks, and defense systems. Educational resources means free access to all galactic knowledge and teacher exchanges. Protection services means a full military fleet stationed in our system. David's face went pale. But we built our own starports. We created our own communication networks. Exactly. Susan smiled. And according to this law, the council should have been paying for all of it, for 50 years. Within 6 hours, Susan's team had calculated the costs. 50 years of infrastructure development for an entire solar system and 12 colony worlds. The numbers were enormous. At the same time, in Geneva, the Earth Department of Interstellar Commerce was making its own discoveries. Trade analyst Maria Santos had found a section about discriminatory treatment that made her laugh out loud. According to Galactic Code 445b. 7. She announced to her team. Any species subjected to unequal access restrictions is entitled to compensation for lost opportunities. What kind of compensation? Asked her supervisor. Double the estimated profits they would have made with full access. Maria read. For every year of restriction. Her supervisor sat down hard in his chair. 50 years of restricted trade rights. Double profits. He did. Quick math in his head. That's more money than exists in the human economy. By the end of the first day, Earth's legal teams had found dozens of problems with humanity's treatment. The probationary period itself violated 4 different anti-discrimination laws. The limited access to galactic knowledge broke educational equality statutes. Even the way first contact had been handled went against protocols for species dignity. Dr. Webb coordinated with teams around the world. Together, they prepared the first wave of legal documents. The humans worked through the night, fueled by coffee and the excitement of finding the greatest legal gold mine in history. At dawn, Earth's Department of Interstellar Commerce filed its first claim with the Galactic Council. The document was 847 pages long and requested immediate payment of 847 trillion galactic credits for retroactive infrastructure development costs. The second filing came from Earth's Educational Council. They wanted compensation for discriminatory knowledge restrictions and demanded immediate access to all galactic libraries, plus teacher exchange programs for every human educational institution. The third filing was from Earth's military. They requested protection service reimbursement for having to defend themselves during the probationary period, plus interest. On the galactic capital world of Centauri Prime, the Council's legal department received the documents with confusion. The department had 3 staff members who mostly handled simple disputes between traders. They had never seen anything like this. Junior legal clerk Yixatal opened the first file and immediately called his supervisor. Director Qualtom. I think there's been a mistake. These humans sent us some kind of technical manual? Director Qualtom looked at the document. Page after page of numbered clauses, legal references, and mathematical calculations. What do they want? Money. Yixtal said weakly. A lot of money. They're claiming we owe them for 50 years of everything. Rue. Way. Rue. Director Qualtom tried to read the document but got confused by the second page. The humans wrote like machines, referencing specific laws and subsections. They quoted exact dates and regulation numbers. They attached mathematical proofs for their calculations. Call Chancellor Vextar, Qualtom said. I think we have a problem. But the calls couldn't get through. The Council's communication system was crashing under the weight of incoming legal documents. Every hour brought new filings from Earth. Humans were claiming compensation for everything from emotional distress during first contact to lost opportunities in agricultural exports. By the end of the week, the humans had filed 2.7 million legal documents with the Galactic Council. The age of galactic peace was over. The age of galactic paperwork had begun. The word spread through human space like fire through dry grass. Within 72 hours of the first legal filings, every human with access to galactic networks had heard the news. Earth's government wasn't just filing complaints. They were winning. On Mars colony, corporate lawyer Jennifer Walsh downloaded the Galactic Trade Database and started reading. She worked for Titan Mining Corporation, and she had learned something very interesting. According to Galactic Trade Statute 12,847C, any artisan food producer could import goods without paying taxes. The law was 12,000 years old. It was meant to help small farmers trade special foods between planets. But Jennifer noticed something important. The law never defined what artisan food actually meant. "Hey, boss," she called to her supervisor. "Remember how we pack our mining equipment in those special atmosphere containers? Yeah, they keep the tools from rusting in different planet environments. Why? Well, technically, those containers create unique atmospheric conditions that change the molecular structure of anything inside them. That's a form of food preparation. Right?" Her supervisor stared at her. "You want to classify mining equipment as food?" "Artisan food," Jennifer corrected with a big smile. "Specially prepared using traditional atmospheric techniques. Tax-free imports for everyone." Meanwhile, on Europa Station, immigration lawyer Carlos Mendez was having his own breakthrough. He had found a law about educational equality that was supposed to make sure all galactic citizens got the same learning opportunities. "Look at this," he told his wife over dinner. "Every citizen has the right to comprehensive educational support until they reach species-appropriate intellectual maturity." "That sounds normal," his wife replied. "But humans live longer than most galactic species," Carlos explained. "And our learning never stops. We keep getting smarter our whole lives. So technically, we never reach full intellectual maturity. Which means free education for every human, forever. Plus, we can demand teachers from every species in the galaxy to make sure we get truly comprehensive education." The news traveled through human colonies, space stations, and corporate offices. Everywhere, humans started reading galactic law with the same intensity their ancestors had used to read tax codes and insurance policies. On Proxima Station, financial advisor Lisa Zhang discovered that human colonies were entitled to emergency relocation funds because Earth had never been properly designated as a protected homeworld during first contact. The penalty for this oversight was massive. According to Section 1847 of the Homeworld Protection Act, she announced to her team, "Every human family can claim relocation costs for being forced to live on an unsafe, unprotected planet during the probationary period." "But nobody actually relocated," pointed out her assistant. "The law doesn't say they had to actually move." Lisa grinned. "It says they have the right to claim the costs because they were put at risk." On Nexari Prime, trade coordinator Zal Hun watched his computer screen in horror. Human merchants had flooded the trade networks overnight. Somehow, they had classified everything from starships to dark matter containment units as artisanal products. A human trader named Mike Johnson had submitted paperwork declaring his cargo ship an artisanal atmospheric processing facility. Another human claimed her weapons shipment was traditional metalworking art. Every form was filled out perfectly, with references to obscure trade laws that hadn't been used in centuries. Zal Hun tried calling Earth to complain, but the humans had an answer for everything. They quoted specific regulations, provided mathematical proof of their claims, and attached legal precedents from cases that were older than some civilizations. Your own trade code section 4847b states that atmospheric processing qualifies as artisanal food preparation, explained Human Trade Representative Amanda Park over video call. "Our ships process atmosphere to keep crews alive. Under subsection C, this qualifies for artisanal status." "That law was meant for cheesemakers," Zal Hun protested. "The law doesn't specify cheese," Amanda replied calmly. "It says atmospheric processing. Our legal team has identified 47 similar cases in galactic precedent that support our interpretation. On the Zephyrian homeworld, Things were even worse. The telepathic aliens had always monitored other species' thoughts to maintain peace and order. They considered it a public service. But the humans had found laws about mental privacy rights that no one had paid attention to in millennia. Captain Elena Rodriguez arrived at Zephyria with a diplomatic ship and a 40,000-page legal document. She was accompanied by 12 human auditors who wanted to review Zephyrian tax records. According to Galactic Privacy Code 847F, Elena announced to the shocked Zephyrian Council, unauthorized telepathic monitoring is punishable by fines equal to 30% of the offending species' annual economic output. But we've been doing this for thousands of years, protested Zephyla. We monitor thoughts to prevent wars and crimes. The law makes no exception for good intentions, Elena replied. You've been violating human privacy rights for 50 years. The fine is 4.7 trillion galactic credits, plus interest. The Zephyrians tried to argue, but the humans had come prepared. They had documented every instance of telepathic contact, calculated exact damages, and even brought legal precedents from cases involving other telepathic species. Even the ancient Veil energy beings weren't safe. Somehow, the humans had figured out how to serve legal documents to beings made of pure energy. They used quantum-entangled particles to deliver lawsuits directly to the Veil's consciousness. The Veil found themselves being sued for unlawful observation during humanity's probationary period. The humans claimed their privacy had been violated by beings who existed partially outside normal spacetime. How can we be sued for existing? The Veil asked the Council in confusion. They're claiming you violated their temporal privacy rights, Chancellor Vex, Tar explained weakly. Apparently, your ability to see across time means you were watching them before they consented to observation. The mathematical Nexari tried to fight back with logic and calculations. They spent days computing responses to human legal claims. But every calculation they made only proved that the humans were right. Logic Prime Nexus presented his findings to the Council with the electronic equivalent of a sigh. Human legal claims are mathematically sound. Our own principles support their arguments. Probability of successful challenge, 0.0001%. Within 1 month of gaining citizenship, humans had filed legal claims against every major species in the galaxy. They demanded payment for 50 years of discriminatory treatment. They wanted compensation for emotional damages from being treated as probationary citizens. They even claimed reimbursement for the stress costs of having to prove they deserved citizenship. The total amount of all human claims exceeded the entire galactic treasury by a factor of 12. And according to galactic law, every single claim was valid. Chancellor Vextar stood in his office, looking at reports that made no sense. The galactic treasury was empty. For the first time in recorded history, the government that had ruled the galaxy for millennia was completely broke. Explain this to me again, he said to Treasury Director Quindal. The humans are right, Quindal replied, his 4 hands shaking as he held the financial reports. Every claim they made is legally valid. We owe them more money than has ever existed in galactic history. How is that possible? We never updated our laws, Quindal said weakly. For 800,000 years, we just added new rules on top of old ones. Nobody ever checked if they made sense together. The humans found every contradiction, every loophole, every mistake. Vex Tar collapsed into his chair. When he had welcomed humanity to the galaxy, he thought he was performing a simple ceremony. Now his entire government was falling apart. Sir, his assistant announced through the intercom. The humans are here for their appointment. Captain Elena Rodriguez walked into the office with confidence. Behind her came a team of humans, carrying data pads and briefcases. They looked like they were ready for war. But their weapons were calculators and legal documents. Chancellor Vextar, Elena said politely. We need to discuss the settlement arrangements. Settlement? Vextar asked hopefully. You're willing to reduce your claims? Oh no, Elena replied with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. We're here to collect. According to Galactic Emergency Statute 447A, when the Treasury cannot pay valid claims, the claimants can take provisional compensation from planetary assets. Elena handed him a document. We're here to collect 30% of Zephyria's annual economic output. They owe us for privacy violations. You can't just take control of an entire planet's economy. We're not taking control, Elena corrected. We're providing financial oversight to ensure proper payment. It's completely legal. In fact, the statute requires it. On Zephyria, the telepathic aliens watched in growing panic as human accountants arrived on their world. The humans worked in teams, examining every aspect of Zephyrian society with mechanical precision. Audit team leader Robert Chen set up his office in the capital city. Within days, he had discovered that the Zephyrians had been miscalculating their taxes for 3,000 years. The problem is your telepathic link, he explained to the confused Zephyrian finance minister. When thoughts are shared instantly across your population, it creates what we call distributed economic value. Under Galactic Tax Code 12,447, that's taxable as a communication service. But that's just how we exist, the minister protested. We understand, Robert replied kindly. But existence doesn't exempt you from tax law. You owe the council roughly 800 billion credits in back taxes, plus penalties and interest. The Zephyrians tried to argue, but the humans had already filed the paperwork with the Galactic Tax Authority. As compensation for administrative oversight, the humans would manage Zephyrian finances until the debt was paid. On Nexari Prime, the logical robots faced a different problem. The humans had challenged their entire mathematical system. Human economic analyst Dr. Sarah Kim stood before the Nexari High Logic Council with a presentation that made their circuits overheat. Your efficiency calculations are wrong, she announced calmly. You've been using a mathematical model that assumes perfect information and rational actors. But galactic society doesn't meet those conditions. Logic Prime Nexus processed this information. Explain. For example, you calculate trade efficiency based on the assumption that all species make logical economic choices. But the Zephyrians make decisions based on shared emotions. The Veil exist outside normal time, and sometimes make purchases for events that haven't happened yet. Your entire economic model is built on false assumptions. The Nexari ran the calculations. The humans were right. Their mathematical perfection had been based on imperfect understanding. Furthermore, Dr. Kim continued, your miscalculations have led to improper resource allocation across 4,000 star systems. Under galactic efficiency standards, you're liable for economic damages to every trading partner affected by your errors. The Nexari realized they owed compensation to virtually everyone they had ever traded with. Even worse for the galaxy, the humans had discovered something that shocked everyone. The Veil, the ancient energy beings who were supposed to be wise and all-knowing, had been making mistakes for millions of years. On the energy plane where the Veil existed, human quantum legal specialist Dr. Amanda Foster materialized using borrowed Veil technology. She carried quantum-encoded legal documents that could interact with beings made of pure energy. We need to discuss your temporal observations, she announced to the assembled Veil consciousness. Our observations maintain galactic stability, the Veil replied in their whisper-wind voice. But they violate causality laws, Amanda explained. When you observe possible futures and then act on that information, you create temporal paradoxes. Under Galactic Physics Regulation 847Q, paradox creation is illegal and punishable by reality stabilization fines. We have done this for millions of years. Which means you owe millions of years' worth of fines, Amanda said cheerfully. Plus interest, compounded across multiple timelines. The Veil had never considered that their nature might be illegal under their own laws. Back on Centauri Prime, Chancellor Vextar called an emergency session of the Galactic Council. Representatives from every major species gathered in the Crystal Hall, but this time the atmosphere was very different. "The humans have beaten us," Vextar announced. "Not with weapons or war, but with our own laws. They've found flaws in our entire system of government." Trade Coordinator Zal Hun raised his 6 arms in frustration. "They've turned every species into either debtors or lawbreakers. Half the galaxy owes them money, and the other half is being audited for tax violations." "What do they want?" asked Zephyla. As if summoned by the question, Ambassador Sarah Chen walked into the hall. She looked exactly the same as she had during the citizenship ceremony, but now she carried herself with quiet authority. "We want to help," she said simply. "Help?" Vextar asked suspiciously. "Your government is broken," Sarah explained. 800,000 years of accumulated laws that contradict each other. Tax systems that don't work. Trade regulations that make no sense. Financial records that haven't been properly audited in millennia. She gestured to the crowd of worried aliens. "You've been running the galaxy on tradition and good faith. That worked when everyone thought the same way. But now, you have humans in the galaxy. We think differently. What are you proposing?" asked Logic Prime Nexus. "Partnership," Sarah replied. "We'll forgive most of our legal claims. In exchange, you let us help fix your government. We'll reorganize your legal system, update your financial records, and create proper bureaucratic procedures." The council members looked at each other uncertainly. "The alternative," Sarah added quietly, "is economic collapse. Our legal claims will bankrupt the galaxy. Your own laws require it." Chancellor Vextar realized he had no choice. The humans held all the cards, and those cards were perfectly legal documents that no one could challenge. "What would this partnership look like?" he asked. Sarah smiled, and this time it was genuine. "Earth becomes the administrative capital. We handle all the paperwork, legal procedures, and financial management. You get to keep your traditional titles and ceremonial roles. Everyone wins." As the council debated, no one noticed the human interns quietly setting up filing systems in the corner of the hall. The age of galactic tradition was ending. The age of proper documentation was about to begin. 6 months had passed since humanity's citizenship ceremony, and the Crystal Hall of the Galactic Council looked very different. The ancient stone seats remained. But now they were surrounded by organized filing cabinets, computer terminals, and bulletin boards covered with colorful charts and schedules. Human workers moved efficiently through the space, carrying clipboards and data pads. They wore professional business clothes and identification badges. Everything they did was documented, filed, and cross-referenced in triplicate. Chancellor Vextar sat in his ceremonial throne, but the real power in the room belonged to the woman standing at the central podium. Ambassador Sarah Chen had been promoted to Director General of Galactic Administration, and she ran the government with the precision of a Swiss watch. "Good morning, council members," Sarah announced. "Before we begin today's session, please remember to sign the attendance forms and update your contact information if anything has changed since yesterday." The alien representatives obediently filled out their paperwork. They had learned that arguing with human bureaucracy was like fighting gravity, technically possible, but ultimately pointless. "First item on today's agenda," Sarah continued, "is the monthly efficiency report. I'm pleased to announce that galactic government productivity is up 847% since we implemented proper administrative procedures." Trade Coordinator Zal Hun raised one of his 6 hands. "Sarah, about the new trade forms." "Director General Chen," Sarah corrected politely. "Please use proper titles during official sessions. And yes, I know the import-export harmonization documents are complex, but they prevent the kind of legal problems we had before. Remember, proper paperwork protects everyone." Zalhun sighed. The humans had solved the trade law problems by creating 47 different forms that had to be completed for every transaction. It was bureaucratically perfect and absolutely miserable. Now, Sarah said, let's welcome our newest administrative staff. Please stand up. Team 7. 20 young humans stood up from desks around the hall. They looked eager and energetic, ready to tackle any organizational challenge. Team 7 will be handling the Veil Temporal Documentation Project, Sarah announced. As you know, our energy-being citizens have been struggling to adapt to linear paperwork requirements. Team 7 has developed a quantum filing system that works with non-linear consciousness. The Veil representative manifested as a shimmering cloud of confused light. We still do not understand why we need permits to exist in multiple time streams. Safety regulations, explained Team 7 leader Jennifer Walsh. Unlicensed temporal activity creates liability issues. Don't worry. The temporal existence permit is only 847 pages long, and renewal is annual. From his throne, Chancellor Vexitar watched it all with mixed feelings. The humans had saved galactic civilization from legal and financial collapse. The government actually functioned, now. Trade was regulated properly. Tax collection was efficient and fair. But somehow, he missed the old days when things were simple and informal. Dr. Marcus Webb approached the Chancellor's throne with a friendly smile and a thick folder. As senior legal consultant, he made sure everything the government did was completely legal and properly documented. Chancellor Vexitar, he said warmly, I need your signature on the ceremonial authority acknowledgement forms. This confirms that your traditional leadership role is properly recognized under the new administrative structure. Vexitar took the papers and started reading. Marcus, this is 47 pages long. I know it seems like a lot. Marcus replied sympathetically. But it protects your rights and clearly defines your ceremonial duties. Page 12 covers your throne-sitting schedule. Page 18 explains the proper procedures for making traditional speeches. And page 31 details your lunch break entitlements. Vexitar signed the forms because he had learned that fighting human paperwork only resulted in more paperwork. Across the hall, Logic Prime Nexus was having his own encounter with human efficiency. Administrative Assistant Lisa Zhang was explaining the new logical consistency verification procedures. Every decision you make now gets checked against the Nexari logic database, she explained cheerfully. We cross-reference your reasoning with mathematical principles and flag any inconsistencies for review. This is what we always wanted. Nexus replied in his electronic voice. Perfect, logical, consistency. Exactly. Of course, the verification process does require filling out Form 847L for each decision, and appeals go through the Mathematical Review Board, which meets every third Thursday. Nexus realized that perfect logic required perfect paperwork. Even the Zephyrians had adapted to the new system, though not always happily. Their telepathic abilities made them excellent at processing information, so the humans had put them in charge of data entry and mental filing. Zephala worked at a desk covered with papers, using her telepathy to organize thoughts and documents simultaneously. I never imagined my cosmic mental powers would be used for inventory management, she told her assistant. But you're really good at it, replied her human supervisor, data management specialist Robert Chen. Your telepathic filing system is 340% more efficient than traditional methods. Plus, you get standard government benefits now, health insurance, paid vacation time, and a retirement plan. What is a retirement plan? We'll explain it during your mandatory employee orientation seminar next Tuesday. As the months passed, word of humanity's administrative takeover spread across the galaxy. Other species began requesting human help with their governments and businesses. Earth became the center of galactic bureaucracy, and humans found themselves the most popular consultants in known space. Captain Elena Rodriguez ran the Office of Interspecies Administrative Assistance from a massive building on Earth's surface. Every day, alien representatives came seeking help with legal problems, tax issues, and organizational challenges. The key, Elena explained to a delegation of confused beetle-like aliens from the Krex system, is documentation. If it isn't written down in triplicate with proper stamps and signatures, it didn't happen. The Krex Queen clicked her mandibles in frustration. But we have been trading successfully for thousands of years without any paperwork. And that's exactly the problem, Elena replied patiently. Success without documentation is just luck. Proper procedures ensure consistent, repeatable, legally defensible results. Back in the council hall, Sarah Chen was wrapping up the day's business. Before we adjourn, I have a few announcements. The new employee handbook is ready. It's only 1,247 pages this time. The annual Galactic tax forms are due next month. And please remember that unauthorized interdimensional travel requires proper permits from the Department of Reality Management. Chancellor Vex Tar raised his hand. Sarah, sorry, Director General Chen, I have a question about my title. Of course. What can I help you with? Well, my species has always used the title Chancellor. It's traditional for our people. Sarah consulted her datapad. I understand the cultural importance, but our legal review board has identified some issues. The title Chancellor technically violates Galactic Equality Statutes 47B through 47ZZ. It implies hierarchical authority that conflicts with our new collaborative administrative structure. Vex Tar felt his hope dying. What do I need to do? Fill out Form 77B through 77ZZ to apply for a traditional leadership role exemption. The application fee is nominal, and processing only takes 6 to 8 weeks. As the session ended, the alien representatives filed out of the hall in orderly lines, checking their schedules and organizing their paperwork. They moved with the mechanical precision that came from months of human administrative training. Sarah watched them go with satisfaction. The galaxy was finally running properly. Every process was documented. Every procedure was efficient. Every problem had a form to solve it. Near the exit, she noticed a young human intern approaching Chancellor Vex Tar with yet another clipboard. Excuse me, sir, the intern said politely. I'm updating our database and noticed your species' traditional greeting involves raising 4 arms simultaneously. Under Workplace Safety Regulation 447C, that constitutes a repetitive motion activity requiring an ergonomic assessment and possibly protective equipment. Vex Tar stared at the intern. You want me to get safety approval for saying hello? It's just a precaution, sir. The assessment form is only 17 pages, and it ensures you won't develop stress injuries from excessive ceremonial arm-raising. As Vex Tar walked away, muttering under his breath in his native language, Sarah felt a moment of doubt. Maybe they had gone a little too far with the regulations. But then she looked around the perfectly organized hall, with its efficient workflows and documented procedures, and smiled. The Galactic Council had given humanity citizenship. Humanity had given them proper government. It seemed like a fair trade. After all, someone had to keep track of the paperwork.